Good evening, world. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program, broadcasting to you from the studios of webcast1live.com in downtown Des Moines, Iowa. This is Lefty bringing you, as always, the perspectives you love from the sides you hate, and across the table, putting on his cheaters with the world that he beats the beaters and the haters, is Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh. Doc, what is happening, my man?
Not much. You know, have you ever gone through a day and at the end of the day you go, you know what? I learned a lesson that I should have known already, but it kind of took this particular incident to
every single day.
Well, you want to know what the lesson I learned today?
Lay it on me.
You should not play the name game with a kid named Bucky.
No.
That's all I know.
No, you probably should not.
Yeah, so fortunately I stopped myself just in time.
Yep.
Just in time. So
there's a number of those names that don't really work for that.
No, not really. Blake doesn't work.
No, Blake actually works just fine.
Well, yeah, but then you're calling yourself a flake. Oh, good. We have Lefty over here admits, hey, I'm kind of flaky.
I guess. I don't know if that's how it goes.
Fatty.
Yeah.
That's not good. Oh, yeah? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I guess.
That's not very nice.
You would just be fat.
Well, I am.
You know?
I mean, look at me. I mean, I know the camera adds 10 pounds. So in real life, I'm only about as big as my finger. But, you know, on camera.
Fair enough.
You know, that's how it goes.
So I gotta say, this, you know, this weather has just been... You know what? I can't do it. I was gonna do some small talk about the weather with you, but what I really want to talk about is what a relaxing, wonderful time. It is so lucky. It is so lucky that Easter is in the spring, because we did Easter over the weekend and it was great.
Yeah.
I got to play with some little kids.
That's always fun.
Do some Easter egg hunting with these little kids.
Yeah.
The 3-year-old Megan's 3-year-old nephew is hilarious.
Yeah.
Loves finding stuff. Can't look for stuff. He just likes finding it. He got to leave it out in the middle of the lawn for him. That's how he'll find it. But he really digs picking up eggs. Had ham, mashed potato, the whole thing. It was just great. And then drove back, kind of listening to the Cubs opening day on Sunday.
Oh, that'd be good.
It was good.
Until they lost.
They lost, yeah.
Because, you know,
3-0 on opening day, but
Cubs baseball.
It's too bad to the Cardinals. But other than that, it was a great weekend, and you couldn't have asked for a nicer day on Sunday. And then the last 2 days, you know, this week have just been kind of gloomy and I don't know.
Well, you know, it's good gardening weather. It's a good time to get your garden prepared, get the weather is perfect to getting it all churned up. Not a lot of hard, crunchy things in the dirt. So
I did learn this one interesting thing, and I thought, and maybe I can share this little story with you before we go into what we're going to talk about. So I've told you off air that my folks have had issues with identity theft over the last few years. And it's been persistent and terrible. I mean, my parents live in Minnesota, and a few years ago, they were looking for their tax refund, and it wasn't showing up. Somebody had stolen my dad's identity and had been diverting the tax refund and had gone back and a few years and had altered their tax returns from prior years to get more tax refund money. Because, you know, if you go back 3 years and you file an amended return, you can sometimes get more of a refund back if you were entitled to one. So that's what had been going on. I mean, they'd been bilking my folks for thousands of dollars. Had the FBI involved, the IRS involved, the postmaster involved, everybody. And it just wasn't going well. Well, they finally got a break in the case because my folks have been sued and garnished on default judgments on these credit cards they'd had no idea had been taken out in their names. And so we're going to receive a small payment from the Victims Relief Fund. Well, these crooks, they were watching the account. The minute that money from the Victims Relief Fund came in, they called my dad's bank and said, "Oh, I'm Mr. Labinas. I'm moving to Texas. I need you to close this bank account and open up this new one in Texas." Well, somebody screwed up because they left an address at the bank in Texas, and the FBI stormed the place and arrested 5 people and confiscated thousands and thousands of files on folks whose identities have been stolen.
Holy cow.
Now, here's what the kicker is. Now, my mother, who is a great lady, but when she gets upset, especially when it comes to money, she's a scary individual. And when she says that she's going to do something to somebody, you're kind of stepping lightly around her. Okay?
Okay, good.
She tells me that they were interrogating one of these crooks, and the person said, "Well, we bought this list. This isn't even our list. We didn't do this. We bought this list of names from some other individual. The hacker that stole the identities sold this list." And the woman says to the agents, "Well, if they say, this is a crime, what you've done here." It's like, "Well, if you send us to jail, how are we supposed to make back our investment?" And my mother was fuming.
Oh, yeah.
Fuming. Investment, they called it.
Yeah,
Boy,
well, they only catch the dumb ones.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, there was 3 others that were supposed to be there they didn't round up. So hopefully it's over. But I thought that these identity theft people, so hopefully it's over for my folks. That's the main part of it. But these identity theft people, folks, they don't see you as a victim. They see you as a legitimate business opportunity. And that's why it's so dangerous, and you got to keep your stuff protected.
Absolutely. We ought to have, in fact, next week, Michael Libby is coming on.
Oh,
and
great.
He's a, big flaming left-wing liberal, just like you.
Mm-hmm. I think that I smolder.
No.
I smolder.
I don't think you smolder. No, it's big and flaming, and, anybody who talks about collectivism, that's a flamer. Anyway, he's going to be on the show. He has his own business show, and he's agreed to come on next week, and we can talk to him about that, about how to protect yourself.
Sure.
He talks about that sometimes. I had a pretty good weekend. Came to the realization, because I had 3 of my 6 godchildren there, I came to the realization there are 6 people out there dumb enough to entrust their children's future to a guy like me. So what? I don't know if that says something about me or something about them, but I can't believe 6 of them. Anyway, speaking of which, 2 of them that weren't there were Dacia and Katya. Hi. Uncle Pat says hi. But it was a pretty good time this weekend. My son came over with his girlfriend, and my nephew came out, my brother, and other members of my family that I love. And we all had a good time. Ate a whole lot of stuff we shouldn't have ate.
Yeah.
And then it was a lot of fun.
I got to tell you that I was in charge of making the dessert. And I made the best darn apple crisp oh man, I made it a second. I bought enough apples to make 2. So I made a second one when we got back to Des Moines on Sunday. I made it last night. Holy cow. Folks, if you want some left-wing apple crisp, it is really, really good. It is really good.
Oh my.
Yep. I will give it to you for nothing with a copy of Marx and Engels, and you can enjoy
good
apple crisp and read communist literature.
You know who we need to have back on the show?
Who's that?
Sid. Remember her?
Oh yeah.
The caterer?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That was one of the best shows ever.
Well, we got to eat.
Oh yeah.
We never get to eat.
No, not before a show.
Not in front of people. I do all my eating in the dark with the lights turned off and sobbing into a bucket of ice cream. I don't know what. Not a pint, a bucket. I consume units of food in things that you would put crude oil and
barrels.
Barrels, buckets.
So you're one of those people that go out there and they get the ice cream bucket, but it's one of those half whiskey barrels that they have, and you just kind of hunch over like this.
Well, when your spoon is the size of a soup ladle, you're gonna make short work of that half whiskey barrel.
That's the way to go.
Yep.
I always kid my mom that, because every once in a while she gets on a frenzy about something that she really likes, and God help her, she can really pound that stuff down if she gets on that. So she's done. And and I know Mom's listening. So Mom, I'm going to tell you this next story. My mom has done a tremendous job at losing a ton of weight over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal. But how she does it, she goes and gets the stuff she likes, and then she brings it over to my house. I'm like, Mom, I like that stuff too. I need to lose a little weight, and she doesn't quite buy it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to be back right after this break. I want to thank all of our our sponsors. Our next segment is going to be over what? Are we going to tackle Indiana first?
Well, sure, why not?
All right, we're going to hit Indiana, the religious freedom laws. Next segment, we want to thank all of our sponsors, Bertrosh and Associates, Labinas Law Firm, Halo Capital at Des Moines Interest Rates, Des Moines Anesthesia PC. They also do pain management, which is something that is dearly needed here in central Iowa. Their number is 515-574-6442. Hit our website. We're going to have 2 or 3 guest bloggers because you and I are terrible at that.
Well, we're running the sponsorship side.
Yeah, still a weak excuse. Or as the kids would say, that's weak sauce.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
And so follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be back right after this break.
Bertrosh and Associates, how can I help you?
Bertrosh and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We are going to talk about the thing that has been kind of dominating the national conversation for the last week or so, and it is, man, I'm going to characterize this as one of those political self-imposed face plants there in Indiana. The governor signed into law, I think it was a week and a half ago, I believe, late March, Indiana's version of what has been deemed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And this is a kind of a continuation of, or at least a state version of, the federal Religious Freedom Restoration Act that was signed by Bill Clinton, I believe, back in 1992, as a response to the Supreme Court's holding an Employee Board v. Smith, which is a case that said that you couldn't violate a statute of uniform applicability, i.e. the Controlled Substances Act, if you're using a controlled substance for a religious ceremony of some kind. And basically, the appellants in that case, in Employee v. Smith, were Native Americans that used peyote in religious rituals, and they were, I believe, on the wrong side of a drug test and said, hey, we use this for our religious rituals. You shouldn't be we shouldn't be sanctioned for using this stuff. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't, because the Controlled Substances Act is a statute of uniform applicability that covers everybody for everything at all times. It's not discriminatory against. It's not discriminatory against your religious practices. Therefore, you can't use peyote. And the Religious Freedom Restoration Act was passed to correct that, saying that if you have that people can, if they have the freedom of conscience to do whatever they want as far as the religious practice is concerned, if they are if the government comes in and says, hey, you can't do this, they have a defense now. They can prove in court, hey, we have a religious obligation. It's closely held. It's something, it's sincere, and they can protect their religious rights that way. And then later, a few years after that, there was a case that came up through the state courts that the Supreme Court said, look, the RFRA in the federal court version is too broad. You can't use it. And so a number of states drafted their own RFRAs. I believe Indiana is the 19th. I couldn't list all the states that have it. Iowa does not. I can tell you that. Iowa doesn't have a version of this law, but 19 other states do. And basically, a lot of them, or all of them, I believe, except Indiana and Texas, almost closely mirror the federal version. Texas and Indiana go a step further and give the right to private for-profit businesses to assert these same kinds of defenses. And and what's different about that is you have you can have a Doc's tool shop can say, well, we're a Christian or a Buddhist organization, and we don't serve folks that or we don't want to participate in or sell to people that believe differently than me. And when they're sued under the civil rights discrimination laws, they have a religious defense to those lawsuits. And what the criticism has been, as could have been predicted, and I think he was probably Governor Pence and the folks that passed this law probably had every expectation that this would happen in today's political climate. The same-sex community has come down on Indiana like a ton of bricks. Corporations are having issues with this law. The NCAA said we're going to reevaluate our relationship with Indianapolis, and it's been a huge mess and a huge firestorm that could have been avoided, or at least could have been foreseen that this would be a problem.
Well, part of the thing, I think part of this is there seems to be just a focus on the Christian bakeries. I probably have 4 text messages here, all saying the same thing. Now, there are people out there that claim to be gay, go into a Muslim bakery, and the Muslims say, no, we're not going to do it, but it doesn't make the news, right? Now, there's been several links to this one particular video, and I'm not sure if we have the right to broadcast it, so we're going to leave it alone. And plus, it's right now, and I haven't had a chance to vet it, neither of you. But part of the issue with this Religious Freedom Act in Indiana is it's very similar to the federal act that Clinton signed. Clinton, Pelosi, Schumer all signed into being back in the 90s, like you mentioned.
Yep.
Now, there is one thing you said that was just a little bit different in the Indiana statute. Can you kind of highlight what that would be?
Right, yeah. Like I said, it allows a private for-profit business to assert a religious defense.
And then you get...
Yeah, and so basically, now it has been characterized as discriminatory against homosexuals, and that facially that's not true. Facially, that's not how it operates, and I don't know that. And there might be some legislative history that talks about the effects on gay people. I'm not sure. Haven't dug into it, but on its face, it doesn't discriminate against anybody in that regard. But it goes this step further. These private businesses can assert this defense. So, like in Iowa, for example, we have a civil rights code where you can have if you are denied some kind of thing based on your gender, your ethnicity, your race, religious affiliation, and I believe sexual orientation, then you go to the Civil Rights Commission and you can file a complaint with them. They can do an investigation, and you go through these administrative channels. And if at the end of it you still haven't gotten your relief that you wanted, you can sue somebody in district court under the discrimination statute. And there are statutory damages that you can assert. Now, in Indiana, you would be able to the business or the defender, whoever it was, would be able to come back and say, "Hey, look, I'm not discriminated against you because of who you are or what you believe. I have a religious objection to this certain thing that you want me to do. As a Christian, I don't want to participate in a same-sex wedding. As a Muslim, I don't want to participate in a Jewish ceremony." Whatever it happens to be, it provides them a defense. And so what a lot of the same-sex community is saying is, look, you've seen these reports around the country of folks of photographers that don't want to work at same-sex weddings, bakers that won't sell people wedding cakes. You see this all over the country. And they're kind of extrapolating the effects of what this law could be to the same-sex community in Indiana. So that's the difference.
All right. Well, we're coming up to another break. We're going to be back right after this. We're going to continue this discussion. We're going to talk about how the Republicans botched this golden opportunity in Indiana to stand for something besides let's run from the mainstream media. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks everybody who's texting in.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's Amco on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give Amco on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about the firestorm that's been kicked up in Indiana over the latest Religious Freedom Restoration Act that was passed there several days ago. And we're kind of discussing some of the fallout, some of the issues related to that. And Doc, before the break, you wanted to mention, well, if you want to take pot shots at Republicans, I'm all for it. But what did they botch specifically that you're talking about?
Well, the thing is they had a pretty good law. It was passed. And without even a legal challenge, not even a legal challenge, just everybody in the mainstream media going, oh my God, this is terrible, right? In a knee-jerk reaction, they went and gutted it. They went and passed clarification laws. Well, you know, the bottom line is you get what you want, not in one big fell swoop. That rarely happens. Mm-hmm. It happened with Obama and the ACA, but that was a once-in-a-lifetime fluke, right? And because not even Hillary and Bill, who were at the time much more popular than Obama, not even they could get that done. So the bottom line is big chunks of legislation don't happen. But they had, well, this is what we're passing. That's very similar to the feds that were supported by all the Democrats, acknowledging that, well, yeah, there are instances where, you know, religious freedom really is important, and took it just a hair step beyond. But because of their fear of the mainstream media, they immediately capitulated. Why not do what the liberals do and go, all right, we'll fight it all the way to the Supreme Court. We'll just do it that way. You can fight it out in court. It'll be the law of the land until they decide. It's the same thing. That's what you have to do. There's a lot of states that have a religious freedom law, and I believe it's important. One of the questions we had here, well, it's actually more of a statement, but you said that you could clarify. Yeah. And essentially, if I'm a Christian baker and a Satanist comes in and he says, I want a cake for my wife. And I say, no, I'm not going to bake you a cake because I know you're a Satanist. Everybody would probably agree, well, yeah, it's probably not what you can do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you came in and said, well, we're celebrating All Hallows Eve and we're going to sacrifice a cat later tonight, and I want a giant satanic pentagram on my cake, the Christian bakery could go, well, yeah, we don't participate in that. We don't agree with that. That's our religiously held belief, and we're not going to make that cake. Right.
Well, and I've heard this a lot. The distinction is between the discrimination of the person and the participation in the event. We have the Civil Rights Act of 1965, and then all states have their own versions of that that prevent discrimination in places of public accommodation. If you saw the discussion on our Facebook page, one of the commenters on this story is completely off base. Doesn't seem to really understand.
Is that the guy that says you should just make them prove that they're gay? Is that guy?
No, I don't know about. All right. I don't have it right here in front of me, but
I'm just looking at it. Right now.
It talks about the right of private businesses to refuse service to anybody for any reason. We don't do that as a country. We don't do that anymore. Where in places of public accommodation, private businesses that serve the public, hotels, grocery stores, bakeries, whatever it happens to be, you cannot refuse service if that refusal is based on a person's race, color, ethnicity, creed, gender, sexual orientation. this law that now the RFRAs around the country and the ones in the one that the federal government passed are specifically limited to the government doing something to either the government's employees or some law that impacts someone's free exercise of religion in a negative way. It's limiting government action, right? Which corresponds directly to the First Amendment. And I don't think we need to get into that kind of discussion. But this seems to me to be in direct conflict with that pre-existing civil rights legislation that would allow a place of public accommodation to say, I am not going to serve you based on some kind of thing. The distinction being, well, I'm not going to serve you because you're going to use my thing at an event that I don't agree with. And I feel like that's a distinction without a difference, personally. Okay. Because if you're going to, and I recognize that it's different. I'm not going to sit here and argue that it's the same thing. But it appears to be a distinction without a difference, in my opinion.
So the other question that I got is, if you're a black-owned business and you had a Klan member come in and say, we want a Klan rally cake, what's the difference between that and this? I mean, obviously the black-owned people are not going to support Klansmen, right? Mm-hmm. But yet that's their political belief.
Well, you can discriminate against political beliefs. That's not protected under any civil rights statute. All right. So, like, you can fire somebody for being a Democrat. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
You absolutely could. And they have no recourse for it. But the Ku Klux Klan comes in and they have a set of beliefs. I mean, you can still refuse service for someone for being rude or for not wearing shoes or whatever happens to be. If you got somebody coming in who is a member of a recognized terrorist group in this country, I don't see that as discrimination that would be now. Yeah. Trying to get an injunction to prevent them from picketing your store you're going to run into problems under the First Amendment.
All right.
But
well, from Jason, who is a very free thinker, is gay marriage a political belief? Is that a political belief, or is that a religious belief, or what kind of belief is that?
Gay marriage is marriage a political belief? That's how I would respond.
All right, fair enough. Now, one of the things I want to address real quick is, do you believe that the gay community is targeting Christians? Because we don't ever hear about gays going into a Muslim bakery or a Jewish bakery or, any kind of bakery other than the Christian ones that blow up and make the pages.
Well, we don't hear about very many of those because there aren't as many, number one. Number two, the Jewish faith has not been on record as being as hardline against homosexuality in recent years, at least, as the fundamentalist Christians have been. Okay, you don't see there is no Jewish equivalent of the Westboro Baptist Church, for example. Sorry, Christians, he's part of your tribe, even though we
reject that,
even though we don't like it, he's part of your tribe. You don't see that on the Jewish side, and there just aren't as many. Christianity, unfortunately, is the majority religion in this country. And when I say unfortunately in context, I don't mean that.
Yes, I get it.
You know what you see what I'm saying?
You're not offending anybody except Christians.
In this, there it is. My brother and sister-in-law listen to this too every once in a while, so I can offend them as well. But what I mean is, if the difficulty is in understanding that these things happen to Christians that own businesses more often than Muslims that own businesses, I would say that these stories pop up in smaller communities where these are one of only one or two games in town, and probably not a lot of Muslims or Jewish folks or Buddhists or whoever in the same kind of position they're in.
All right. So, but the thing is we do know Muslims are very against gay marriage.
Yeah, we do.
And from my perspective, I believe they're absolutely targeting the Christian community. They're absolutely wanting to drive the Christianity out of the mainstream, and I believe that's a concerted effort. I don't necessarily believe it's a conspiracy theory because it's no longer a theory. We're going to be back right after this break. What are we going on to next?
Oh, do you want to move off this one so soon? I thought you were just getting fired up.
We spent 2 segments on it. We have other things to talk about.
We can talk about the Iran deal.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Iran deal when we get back. I'm all loaded for bear on that since that happens to be in my foreign policy bailiwick. We'll be back right after the break. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We're going to move away to the other big topic that has been dominating the discussions that got old Prime Minister Netanyahu to speak in front of Congress, got John Kerry into a bunch of hot water a couple of weeks ago. We have an Iran deal. At least we have the preliminary, the framework for a deal that's going to be signed, I believe, in July. And I'm curious. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about it, but it's a real deal. It's got real parts, and a lot of folks are saying that it's a good first step. What do you think?
Well, I would disagree that it's real deal with real parts. I mean, obviously it's got real parts to it. But when you have both sides saying almost the exact opposite about what's in the bill or what's in the treaty, you have to stop and you have to think, I wonder if they really understood what they agreed to. One of the things that happens is when you're starting to put together deals at the last minute, particularly if one is starting to walk away from the table, in this case, Iran, and, in order to protect, let's face it, Middle Eastern policy, every president wants to get some kind of deal done in the Middle East so he can leave that as his legacy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, as Americans, we need to stop wasting time over there, right? The Iranians have not agreed to do anything outside of voluntarily following this agreement. That doesn't do any good. It doesn't do anybody good. Well, I'm going to voluntarily promise I'm not going to slap Blake every time we get together. Well, that doesn't mean he's going to be protected from getting slapped by me. It just means that I'm going to try not to, right? There's no verification process in here. There's no you must submit to, right? It's just like the 2003 agreement where they said, well, yeah, we'll try to abide by it voluntarily, but we're not going to let inspectors in. And then finally they just said, well, we're going to do away with the agreement. And I think it was 2006, 2007. So we have a similar situation.
No, it was 2002 and the agreement fell apart immediately.
Yeah,
but this one they agreed to let inspectors come in.
But only voluntarily, just like the 2002 one. Well, that's why it fell apart immediately.
But wait, what's the I mean, you're talking about voluntarily. How else would they do it? We'd bomb them and make them. What are you talking about?
And again, we get back to. I'm just going to mention this real quick. Governor Walker was up there criticizing the Iran deal, and
probably shouldn't have done that.
And President Obama says, "Well, geez, maybe I study foreign policy." And I'm going to tell President Obama, you, sir, should need to study foreign policy because that's what I do. And there's no foreign policy experts out there that go, gosh, this was a great deal. None of them. They've all said, geez, we have a framework. We at least have hope that these guys aren't going to develop nuclear weapons. But when the president himself goes, well, yeah, more than likely with this agreement, they're still going to be able to develop nuclear weapons. You have not achieved your goal. You have not. The problem with this is voluntary means there's no spot checks. The IAEA can just drop in and go, hey, we're going to inspect it. That's what the problem was before with Iran. And they weren't even willing to come to the table until we invaded Iraq. And then they were willing to come to the table just long enough to figure out that we're really not going to do anything, right? And so then they went back to being belligerents and said, well, we're not going to let people in. That's what's meant by voluntary versus involuntary. You have to be able to allow people to come in and
when
verify.
they say they're going to allow the IAEA inspectors to visit the Natanz and Fordo enrichment sites daily and the Iraq reactor at least monthly, I mean, what kind of spot checks do you need if they're going there every single day?
Well, because it's really easy to hide things. I mean, honest to goodness. I mean, if you look,
Well, then the deal is off and the sanctions get snapped back into place.
well, but that's not what the Iranians think. The Iranians think the exact opposite, right? And in fact, President Obama a couple of times has phrased things in such a way that would make you think, well, yeah, that might be true. But the bottom line is they think this is a strictly voluntary thing.
Yeah, but if the agreement has always been if they violate the terms of the agreement or they don't meet their commitments, then they don't get sanctions relief. So I'm failing to see what the big. I mean, were you going to get everything? Of course not. Of course, and so the business, the Israeli issues beyond this, and the Republican criticism beyond this. When Netanyahu says you have to go in and force them to recognize Israel and stop all terrorist activity and commit to never enriching any more uranium and all the stuff that he's talked about. The question is, how do you propose to do that against a sovereign nation with a military capability? The only way to do it is to invade them and set up some kind of regime change. And no one's talking about that. No one wants to actually do that.
Well, two things. First, I'm going to address the Netanyahu thing. Netanyahu, and I'm a big fan, right? I'm a big fan of Bibi, and Rabbi Kaufman said I could call him Bibi.
Sure.
So the bottom line is Netanyahu, if he was really and truly worried at this point about Iran, he would have already taken action. We've seen him do it before. Why isn't he doing it now? Second, it's in Netanyahu's and Israel's best interest to make sure that we are belligerents of Iran. So when he starts talking about that stuff, I understand why he's saying it. He's saying it in international political speak. Nobody's taking all that seriously. The second thing is you're
except for the Republican Party.
You're the one that thinks that sanctions and all that other stuff work the best. So that's
sanctions have got us here.
So the other thing is,
but we've already been doing sanctions.
But Tehran merely promises to implement the protocol on a voluntary and temporary basis. And the trick is President Obama has said a couple of times, if fully implemented. Mm-hmm. Well, now we have to go back. We got at least a framework. Now we have to go back to solidify it. And the bottom line is if we take the same kind of approach with Iran that we just got done doing, we're not going to get anything we need. We're not going to get any kind of security. We're not going to get spot checks. One of the former heads of the IAEA says pretty much a verifiable agreement will require unfettered access to all key facilities, personnel, documentation, and other information being sought. The protocol, he adds, does not fully oblige this. In other words, there's a lot of wiggle room in there.
But they have agreed to a bunch of different stuff that has to be finalized. And what I don't hear from the right is what more could we do? What leverage do we have? We've had sanctions in place now for a long time. We've specifically had strong nuclear sanctions in place since at least 2002, okay, that have had an effect, that have brought Iran to the table. But between 2002 and now, we've had an increase, like just a blow up of centrifuges. We've had an increase in uranium enrichment. And so the sanctions that are in place haven't done even what we have been trying to do with this agreement. And so the question becomes, what is the alternative path? What leverage do we have if we have these sanctions that have got them to the table? What more can we sanction them with that is going to say, you know what, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to pursue nuclear energy, to pursue an atomic weapon. It's not worth it for us anymore. We give up. We give up. I mean, we've been sanctioning Cuba since the 60s.
Well, and then this is I'm just going to finish up by this particular segment. We'll come back and talk more about the Iran deal after this. But I'm going to finish this particular segment by saying Lefty and I have a lot of arguments about whether sanctions are worth a darn or not. And they're not. You have to have the rest of the world with you before they really work. And if you don't, they don't work. And this is a good example. We're going to get back. Lefty's going to have the first word on on the Iran deal when we get back. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back right after this break.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We're in the home stretch. Well, almost at the home stretch, not quite. We're talking about the Iran nuclear preliminary deal. It's not finalized yet, and these things are complicated. They take time, and you got a lot of people in a room hashing this out. Now, the opposition to an Iran nuclear deal has been somewhat bipartisan in the Senate. You've seen guys like Chuck Schumer kind of come out and say we need to do more sanctions, and Tom Cotton, I guess now is an authority. You author one ill-timed letter that you then you don't even have the guts to stand behind 100%, and now he's an expert on Iran foreign policy. But I'm just going to kind of list off a few of the things that now this is from the White House website, and this is what. Let's actually, before we get into this. There's been some criticism that there are dueling fact sheets, that the Iranians think they've agreed to something different than what the White House is saying they've agreed to. Now, in this age, in this media age that we have, this information age we have going on the internet, I want to pick your brain about what you think the politics of posting. Now, this is the White House website has posted what the Iranians have agreed to in this preliminary agreement. And I gotta think that if it wasn't true, that would be a worse disaster than the Obamacare website rollout. And since so much is riding on it, I feel like we can rely on what's on the White House website. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I'm gonna say that what I believe has been accomplished, they really believe they accomplished it. The bottom line is, though, what you believe you accomplished and what you actually accomplished are often two different things. One of the things we know is Americans are always set up to be the bad guys. Doesn't matter what it is. And so the powers that be in Iran need to set it up so they go, hey, well, listen, we really snookered the Americans. And in this particular case, I would agree with them because the Iranians are walking away from the table, and you know this as well as anything in the art of negotiation. If a party is walking away from the table and the other party goes, well, hold on, wait, we'll agree to what you did, that isn't a victory for you. You need to let them walk because that's the first thing that you learn in the art of the deal. You need to be willing to walk away from a deal that isn't going to be good for you. And the second thing is I believe that the White House I believe that they think that they've done a great thing. The problem is when there's such discrepancies, almost exact opposite things being said by both groups, you have to stop and go, is there a miscommunication? One of the things I was back when I was young, one of the things that happens when you're negotiating a treaty in a foreign language is that there's a lot of just simple miscommunication. I mean, think about this. We have 3 words sound exactly the same. 2. They mean exactly opposite things. That kind of stuff happens in these in these other countries as well, in these other languages. There's a lot of times, especially when you're cramming late at night, there's a lot of simple mistakes that are made. And that can have long-ranging consequences. That's why you have another sit down and hammer everything out. And that's just what happens. My feeling is that they both. I don't think Iran is negotiating in good faith. They have a tendency not to negotiate in good faith. They get the deal that they want, and then they violate it step by step. Unlike the Russians, who get a deal and it doesn't mean anything to them. Fine, we got a deal. Great, we're going to do whatever we want anyway. And the other thing, and I'm not quite sure this is a fair assessment, but there's a lot of people out there that say we really can't trust what Obama says on this thing because this is the very man that let the Russians, knowingly, the Russians had violated the 1987 agreement. Obama knew it and didn't say anything about it in order to secure his own treaty in 2010. I don't think that's a fair assessment. And of course, I like to ding Obama whenever I can. I don't think it's a fair assessment, but that sentiment is out there. So what do you think, Blake? Oh, I forgot to say, Dr. Terror has landed. Is that what you're doing over there?
I'm getting updated, yeah.
You're getting updated, all right. So what do you think? What do you think the Iranians get out of this deal besides lifting of sanctions? Because the bottom line is Obama has said, well, as soon as they violate the sanctions, or violate the agreement, we're going to hit them with sanctions. Well, he hasn't done that yet. He's never followed through on a thing except for when the Europeans bent his arm on Libya. So what do you think the Iranians are getting out of this?
Well, it says it is pretty clear what they're getting sanctions relief. They're also getting other things that the United States is not completely responsible for. For example, oil revenue being returned back to them in installments. That's everywhere. That's not just the United States. Mm-hmm. Suspending the implementation of sanctions, pausing the efforts to further reduce purchases of crude oil from Iran by the 6 economies still purchasing oil from Iran. Also, modifying the thresholds for EU internal procedures for the authorization of financial transactions so they can transfer money between banks easier. Facilitate the establishment of a financial channel to support humanitarian trade already permitted with Iran, and facilitate payments for UN obligations and tuition payments for students studying abroad. That's been something that's been that they've been crabby about for a long time. There's a license and supply of spare parts and services for the safety of flight of Iran's civil aviation sector. I guess that's something they want. There are a number of things other than just the relief of sanctions that the P5+1 is willing to lift, as long as Iran is living up to its end of the bargain. And in any negotiation, you take the other side at their word until the deal is done. And these kinds of deals are not done all at once. So, for example, when I get a and our brother Joe can chime in on this if he wants to, or he can support me on this. You get your deal hammered out. That deal is only so good until you get the check in your hand, or until you get the signed release in your hand. Anything until then, it's still up in the air, even though you've got a verbal agreement with the other side. Now you can. Those are enforceable. Obviously, I don't want to go too far on a limb. Those are enforceable to a certain degree, but we all know that until the paperwork is done, you don't have a full deal. And that's kind of what we have here. We've got the outline of a deal, and the outline is more than they've ever given up in any other negotiation, and we're moving in the right direction.
All right. So how do you respond to people, the IAEA, their response to when they signed the additional protocol? Only implemented it from 2003, only implemented it provisionally and selectively. How do you think Obama's going to overcome this now? I mean, they don't have an incentive to obey it. So,
well, they sure do. They've already received some stuff, and they're going to receive more stuff if they obey the protocol. You're talking about 2003.
Yeah. But they violated it then. What's going to keep them from violating it now? I don't
know.
And see, and that's
10 more years of sanctions, I guess.
Then that's part of the problem with, you have to be able to go in there and verify this stuff. Anyway, when we get back, we're going to talk about some of the people that have announced, and of course, Rand Paul announced today, and Donald Trump's coming to Iowa on Friday, and so we're going to talk about that right after this break. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I want to thank all of our sponsors: Petrosian Associates, Lubinas Law Firm, Halo Capital, Des Moines Interest Rates, Des Moines Anesthesia PC at 515-574-6442. They also do pain management. I'd really recommend them. for your anesthesia needs, and particularly pain management. Pain management, they're really good at that. Go hit our website, docandlefty.com, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be back right after this break.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to move to, it is already 2015. We're in April of 2015. That means that 2016 is right around the corner. More Republicans have announced. I don't think any Democrats have really announced anything yet, but what do you want to talk about?
Well, there is a former SNL person, and of course the computer, started becoming problematic right now. But apparently he's from Iowa, and he's going to declare that he's going to run for president. He used to be an actor on Saturday Night Live.
When?
Just now. I just hit it on the Facebook page. Could be crap.
Well, no. Which cast? Because
Democrat Gary Kroger.
Oh,
will compete. Oh, all right. I take that back. He's going to compete in Iowa's first district against, I believe it's Rod
Blum. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Rod's going to be speaking tomorrow at the West Side Conservative Club. He's
going to have some problems in 2016.
Yeah, that's what he thinks too.
Yeah. He's going to have some problems because it's hard. You're a first time elected official from a blue district in Iowa, purplish district in Iowa. You beat a well-recognized Democrat, and then the first thing you did, you turned around and you bit the hand that fed you by voting against John Boehner. He's going to have a tough time.
Well, actually, I'm going to tell you, I think we've already analyzed exactly how bad What's-His-Face was at running a campaign. So he had that going for him. Plus, it's an off-year election. Mm-hmm. And I do believe he's going to be up against it. Here's the kicker. I think a lot of his base, and I mean a lot of his base, are libertarians. I believe those are the people that voted a lot for him. And the thing that I've learned about libertarians, there's a lot of them in the Democratic Party, far more than I thought, right? Because I see a lot of people every day, and a lot of them talk about the politics. There's a lot of them that are Democrats. So I believe it's going to be a tough race for Rod Blue. I believe that 100%. But I do believe it's not for sure, they're going to vote him out.
Nothing is impossible.
Yes, nothing's impossible. And, a lot of times people just get comfortable with the devil sitting in their living room,
Yeah.
So Rand Paul announced that he was running for Congress today.
Running for president?
Running for president.
How is he going to get it? That means that he's going to have to give up his Senate seat, right? Or has he figured out a way to keep it?
Well, no. I mean, didn't Joe Lieberman get around that, running for vice president?
That was different. I don't know. They must have done something for him in Connecticut, but in Kentucky, you cannot appear on both, because his Senate seat's up in 2016. Kentucky has a law that says you can't appear on the ballot for both things.
Huh.
You can't appear on you can't appear on the primary in the same year that you're running for your Senate and for the president. Can't do it. And he's tried to get that changed. He lobbied the legislature in Kentucky to get that changed, and the Democrats blocked him. So then his next thought was, well, let's change the nominating process from a primary to a caucus, because there won't be any ballots, there won't be any votes cast, and they won't let him do that either. So if he's announcing for president, that means he's got to give up that Senate seat.
Well, anyway, he announced today, and he left out the Christians. He left out gay marriage and all that other stuff, and he left out jobs. And you're like,
yep.
Well, hold on. So you're running as a Democrat. That's what you're running as. And what's truly
scaling back foreign policy.
yeah, and he's bad at foreign policy, and he's already taken several hits from the foreign policy hawks about it. Now, I'm a big fan that America needs to be involved in world affairs. Otherwise, we get isolationism, and that has never worked for the United States. The only time it worked for the United States is when you had to sail here. And as soon as people could fly here, things are different. So he announced there's big giant fundraisers. My nephew Tyler apparently is one of his campaign workers or something like that, because he texted me earlier. And I've encouraged all my family get involved in politics. Mm-hmm. You can do a lot. You can do a lot. The thing is Rand Paul is going to have to do an awful lot to overcome the funding deficit. Lee Heeb, who we've had on the show,
yep,
I believe is probably one of the best candidates for governor we've had in a long time. Just got smoked. No money. Nobody gave her any money. And I think the same thing is going to happen to Rand Paul. It wasn't Jeb Bush that declared early. Who declared last week? I can't remember.
Cruz.
Oh, yeah, Ted Cruz.
But Jeb Bush has already locked up a bunch of Iowa money.
Oh, yeah, a ton of it. And so the bottom line is a lot of these people announce early, so, a lot of times they're angling for a seat in the cabinet. Mm-hmm. And I'm just kind of surprised that Rand Paul didn't mention, hey, listen, let's get government out of our lives. Let's get people back to work. I don't necessarily support gay marriage, but I also don't support the government telling you who you can marry. So that would have satisfied a lot of people. There's a lot of people. I mean, he really had the opportunity to take the grass between the two elephants and draw the elephants together. Mm-hmm. I mean, but he didn't. So I think it was a really weak opening salvo.
Well, he's gonna be heavy in Iowa though. His dad was heavy in Iowa. His dad did well here. All these folks, Jeb, Rand Paul, all these guys who talk about they're their own people. That's fine. You're an independent thinker. You got your own people, but you're going to use the infrastructure that's been successful in the past. That's what Jeb's doing with this fundraising. I expect to see a lot of folks from his dad's campaign on Rand Paul's foray into Iowa. I think he's going to do well here. There's still a lot of love for his dad. There's a lot of love for that sort of the more dovish wing of the Republican Party in Iowa. Yeah. Not as many military hawks in Iowa as there are in other parts of the Republican Party, other parts of the country. And I think that, but I think Iowa's the only state he's going to do well in.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is if he doesn't do well early, he can still appear on the ballot in Kentucky. He could still drop out in time to just not have his name on the presidential ballot.
I think so.
Yeah.
But what I had heard, some of the reporting, especially from the more gleeful liberal media thinking about Rand Paul, was that if he ran, he was done. And if he lost, he'd be out of a job.
Well, yeah. But the thing is let's say he comes to the Iowa straw poll and gets pounded, mm-hmm. right? No support anywhere, no money anywhere. It may be that he just kind of runs it all the way up to the last minute.
Sort of like Vilsack.
Yeah.
We remember 2008, Vilsack was the first Democrat to announce, and then he was out. He was also the first Democrat out.
Yeah. And so that could be the same thing with Rand, and then he could still run for Senate. Because I think his Senate seat's safe no matter what happens. If he actually gets to the point where he gets on the ballot, obviously he'd have to give up a seat. But the bottom line is he can wait until the last minute and then go, yeah, I'm not running for president, I'm backing out, and run for Senate. The other thing is if he makes it and gives up a Senate seat, in the overall scheme of things, Kentucky is not that big of a deal. They have nine votes.
Tell that to Mitch McConnell.
Yes, absolutely. And I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But I'm just saying on a presidential run.
Right.
It's 9 electoral votes. So
I mean, we're almost out of time. So, you know what? Since we're almost out of time, let's give the other guy that you mentioned the time he has earned and the time he deserves. Donald Trump's not running for president. He's not.
Well, he's going to declare and he's going to do it all, but he's a media hound.
He's a huckster. He's not doing it.
Yeah. But tomorrow night, if anybody wants to go meet him, he'll be in Iowa. And so if you want, you can go meet him. I'm going to go up there.
I have a gig tomorrow night. I will be in West Des Moines playing at the Blue Moon. No, I don't have any desire to meet Donald Trump.
Well, I figured I'd go meet him. So what the heck?
Yeah, tell me what you think of him.
I think he needs a better toupee. A man with that much money needs better hair. Honest to God.
Fair enough.
I'm old and gray and my hair looks better than that.
Your hair looks great.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. So, well, you got gigs tomorrow night.
I'm playing at Blue Moon on tomorrow night from 8 to 11. So please come out. I was talking to my buddy Doug, the owner, and we're really trying to make Wednesday nights at Blue Moon something cool and something fun. And I'm happy to assist with that in any way possible. But we need folks to come out. There is music at Blue Moon on Wednesdays, not just reserved for Thursday through Saturday, people. Come out, Blue Moon, Wednesday. I will play any song that you put in front of me.
You know
Every single one.
You know what? I screwed up. I'm not going to be here next Tuesday, and I invited Michael onto the show.
Oh, well, it'll be a Lefty Gab Fest.
Oh
then.
yeah, it will be. Oh my God,
It'll be
maybe I
fantastic.
might have to Skype in, man. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week.
Playing in Iowa City on Friday.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Get over here. Love both of them.